Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And David, on this week's episode, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about your watches, Mike.
Oh, do you know what? We are. Can I just say, and please take this in the spirit in which it's meant.
Yes.
They say that imitation is the best form of flattery.
Oh, right.
Okay. So, and as we say, now I'm going to just can I tell you what? I'll let you unbox this. Okay.
All right.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
So there we go. Have a look at that.
So Mike has basically told me that he's been copying me.
Always.
And,
yes.
You know, it's a bit weird.
Riga Planner 3.
Yeah. Well, let's start there. So.
Okay.
But you never had a Volvo, did you?
I've never had a Volvo.
So there you go.
No. Or a TR7.
So, anyway, while I unbox this, would you like to hold my watch?
Well, yes, fine. Thank you very much. This is lovely. This is a very lovely watch you have here. This is a Casio World Time Illuminator,
right.
And I've always been rather jealous of it.
Yeah.
If I may be so bold.
So show the camera, Mike.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I was a bit engrossed in your.
I bought that well over 25 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago.
Did you? It looks brand new.
Well, it's really well made.
It's just spot on. Yeah. Amazing.
So,
amazing.
Anyway, let's see what Mike has been buying. So, it's a Casio.
It is.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's my watch.
It is your watch. It is your watch. I bought your watch. Well, actually, not your watch, but one very similar.
Wow.
And can I tell you why?
You're a stalker?
Well, there is that. But I've been coveting your watch for a while, and every time I come around to your house, I always think it's really cool.
Okay.
And I thought it was really expensive, but a little bit like our hi-fi bar. Are you kissing my watch?
No, I'm just checking what it's made of.
Oh, are you okay? Stop eating my watch. But rather like a good hi-fi bargain.
Yeah.
Which you have a penchant for finding. Yep. It was £17.
Fantastic.
Which I think is bargain of the century for a really rather gorgeous Casio watch.
Let's have a look. Let's see if it's the same.
Look at that. It's incredibly similar if it's not the same.
That's amazing.
Talk amongst yourselves.
So
look at that, £17 for an incredibly cool watch. I'm really chuffed with that.
That is really good.
And that's sort of like quite a nice segue here into what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
So would you like to tell all our lovely hi-fi riffraff what we're going to talk about today?
Mike, your watch is made of plastic.
Yeah, so?
This is metal.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Perhaps that's why mine's £17.
Perhaps that was why that was 120 quid 30 years ago.
Mine's made of cheese. I have a cheese watch. Well, that's standards for you, isn't it?
It's still really nice though.
Yes.
So, and it's still got a metal bracelet.
It has.
And metal back.
Okay, now you finished slagging off my watch. Let's talk about hi-fi.
Okay. I'll just take my watch here. Thank you.
Yeah, you've given me the wrong one. This is no, it's not made of plastic. It's beautiful.
So
it's stunning. Stunning. Anyway, I'm really pleased with that. So
yes,
what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about a brand new amplifier from Cyrus, and
why is it similar to our watches? Would you like me to explain that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is rather lovely. Oh, look at this! Look at this! I've got it plugged in. I'll fire it up in a second. Yeah. The reason why it's similar to our watches is because it looks very similar to the Cyrus amps of many moons ago,
right?
Because of its form factor.
Yes,
and actually, like our watches, but kind of in reverse.
Right.
It's even better made and even nicer.
Right.
Than the amps of yesteryear.
It's not made of plastic.
And it's not made of plastic. No. So I think this is a rather special product. It really is nice, actually. It's heavy.
It is very heavy.
It's gorgeous. I'm going to fire it up. I'm going to fire it up because... will it fire up for me?
Mm-hmm.
No. We've killed it.
Okay, why don't you take the power lead out? Maybe it's just gone into protection because it's not connected to any speakers or
actually,
anything.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It may not fire up.
Well, try it. Yeah, try it.
That's a very, very fair point. You see, we haven't rehearsed this at all, as you can tell. So if it goes through its setup mode, but then it powers down because it's not connected to anything.
Yeah.
There we are.
But I can guarantee.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
it's on
fine.
now.
Okay.
So there we go.
There we are. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah.
Made in Britain. Look at
That's
that.
right.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. We've been to the factory.
We have been to the factory, and there we are.
Yeah.
Look, there's our analog input. Rather funky volume knob as well.
Yep.
Isn't that lovely?
That's
really
one of the
sweet,
many
isn't
new
it?
features in the amplifier.
Yes, love that. Really, really nice. Am I allowed to do my bit now?
Yes.
Plethora of inputs.
Okay.
Look at them all. Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
There are loads and loads and
Yeah.
loads. Would you like to give a bit of a précis of what
Yes.
we've got?
So we've got preamp, we've got a preamp output, we've got fixed output, we've got a moving magnet phono input, and we've got four pairs of analog RCA line-ins. That's the little ground there for the phono stage. Mm-hmm. And then we've got
two coaxials.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got HDMI eARC.
Yes.
And we've got USB in and speaker outs, and we've got the 40 PSU port there, which is the power supply.
And one optical input.
Yeah.
There we
Digitals are down there under the...
Very nice.
Yeah.
So basically...
Loads of stuff in a small space.
Essentially, it's not just an amp, is it? It's got a DAC built in.
Yep. And a phono stage.
And a phono stage. Now, you said that you thought the phono stage was really good on it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And ESS DAC?
Yeah, so it's got an
I'm going to put it down, so it's really heavy.
It's a 9039 Q2M ESS.
Of course
DAC,
it is.
which is kind of quite a fancy one. And Cyrus say they've done a lot of kind of careful fiddling and fettling. That's fiddling probably isn't the right word. So careful tuning or whatever to get the DAC work really well. Stop laughing, Mike. Thank you very much. And the moving magnet phono stage, as we've said, is fantastic.
Yeah.
So they've also got, compared to the previous i9 XR, which we reviewed not too long ago.
No, and we really liked that.
We really did like
It's a
it.
good amp.
Yeah.
It's a really good amp.
And that was basically the old format with the physical buttons, but it had slightly different buttons to the traditional Cyrus amps. And it's almost like the stepping stone, I think, between the legacy range of Cyrus amps and the new range. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And the 40 range is basically, if you like, the sort of premium range of Cyrus amps now. And there's also a streamer, the 40 streamer, and 40 PS. I think it's 40 PSU, which is the power supply. 40 ST streamer and 40 PSU power supply. But these are all using completely new user interface.
Okay. Which I really like, actually.
You do, yeah.
Touchscreen, really sweet. It feels much more modern.
It does, yes.
But just going back one step, I really like the i9.
Yeah.
I lived with it for a while. I had it plugged in for ages because it's just a really nice amplifier.
Yeah.
And I think this is better.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is better.
Yeah.
I love what this does. I think if you were to say to me, how and why is it better? It'd be a difficult question, but for me, I think there's more clarity here.
Yeah.
I think it gives more detail.
Yeah.
I love the kind of grunt it has.
Yep.
Loads of dynamics.
Yep.
It's still quite. I want to choose my word really carefully here. It's quite a lively amplifier, and by that I mean it's not like flat and dull and and meh.
Yeah.
It's got some go, hasn't it? It's really good. It's got some.
I wouldn't call it forward, but I wouldn't call it laid back.
No, exactly.
It's kind of almost a kind of very good modern Class AB kind of sound, isn't it?
It really is.
Which is very clean. And etched and kind of there and immediate and coming at you, but it never ever sounds overly smooth or boring.
No, it really doesn't. No,
and it sounds to me clearly more grippy and sinewy than even the i9 XR, which was a really nice amp.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
So,
100%. And I think it has control on the music, so it images really well.
Yeah.
Which is, we've heard that. We tried it with the Wharfdale Super Dentons,
Yep.
which are kind of quite laid back in their own.
Yep.
And this, I thought, really brought them to life.
Yeah, well, they're certainly kind of smooth, and as you say, they're certainly on the sort of gently laid back side.
Yes.
And that certainly woke them up. And I've been using this at my place with the 40 PS power supply as well, driving the Super Dentons, and I've also been using my NS1000s with it, and I have to say I am very impressed. I mean, it's so we've done a lot of amps recently, haven't we?
We really
We've
have.
done the
We seem
Hi-Fi
to be
Rose.
amped out, haven't we? Yes,
Absolutely. We've done the Sugden A21 SE. We've done the
Riga
Ethos.
Yeah.
And
we did the NAD.
Yes, that's right. The M33 Master,
which was also touchscreen, built-in DAC, loads of inputs, etc.
Everything, including the kitchen sink in that.
Yes.
That's Class D though, and this is Class AB.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's definitely kind of drier and sort of tighter, I think it's probably fair to say, than the Sugden.
It is.
Sugden's more romantic listen.
Yes.
An amazing amp, I think. It's really exuberant and fun, isn't it, the Sugden?
Sugden's great.
But it's not 100% neutral.
No.
This is much more on the neutral side, and it's more... The Riga Ethos we really like too.
Yes.
And that's kind of one step closer to the Cyrus. It's cleaner, more detailed, and less kind of coloured than the Sugden.
Yes.
And it's, this is really a kind of very good middle point, I think.
I do.
The Hi-Fi Rose, I think, is quite stark and clear, isn't it? And has amazing power output.
Huge amounts of power. Huge amounts of power.
But doesn't quite have the kind of sort of naturalness and organicness of this, I think.
But this is really lovely, actually.
Yeah.
I think to improve on the previous one was quite an achievement.
Yes.
And I think they have done a really great job of that.
Yeah.
And then with the modern interface, so it reminds me a little bit of the NAD in that respect, because it is sort of very, very very sort of now, isn't it?
There's a 5-inch screen there, which takes up most of the front. The front's got a kind of glass surface, as it were.
It's beautifully put together,
and
it's really gorgeous. And like this heatsink at the back here, there's not one sharp edge on the back of the heatsink.
No.
It's just so super smooth.
Absolutely.
It's beautifully milled. It's beautifully put together. Beautifully made. Really impressed with this.
It's superbly built. Absolutely.
What do you think of the form factor of the Cyrus amps?
Yeah, I've always liked them. So this is ever so slightly bigger than...
It is. It's long, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing which I think you don't quite probably get. It's actually a very long amplifier.
Yeah.
It's sort of...
It's that... I mean, I think Cyrus hate this expression, but it's kind of works. It's a shoebox form factor, isn't it?
It is, yes.
But it's great. It's a really nice form factor. It's basically half width. It's slightly bigger than the sort of conventional older Cyruses. And I mean, I have to say, so to me, the touch controls and everything, they work absolutely fine. They give you, there are menus where you can make all kinds of settings and stuff, like the brightness of the volume control ring, and the screen, etc., and how long the amp's on, and maximum volume levels, all that kind of stuff, which is all kind of lovely and modern. But because I'm a kind of 70s throwback, I still rather like the old, sort of physical, volume controls and buttons, really.
Yeah, well, having said that, the physical volume control here is beautiful. It's a gorgeous step volume control.
Yeah.
It really is quite sweet. I quite like that. Obviously, it's not just a one-box solution. It will need an input.
Yep.
So you'll need either, because it's got a DAC, so you'll need either like a streamer or a CD transport, or as you said, a turntable, with a moving magnet.
Or you could put a CD, literally a CD transport. You don't need a CD player.
No, quite.
Because you can run it into the DAC.
No, absolutely. And in fact, there's a few, if you're into your spinning disc, there's a few decent transports around which would go nicely with this.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just a really nice, elegant solution.
It is.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely lovely.
Yeah. It's got a bit more power than the older ones.
Okay.
It's quoted at 100 watts per channel into 6 ohms.
Yes.
And that rises to 113 watts with the 40 PSU.
It doesn't run out of steam though, particularly, does it?
No,
it's got plenty of headroom.
Absolutely. Even by itself, it's kind of it's plenty for most people, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And the extra power is really useful because the older i9R and the older Cyrus amps before that, they weren't low powered, but they, you could notice compared to some products that they're just a little bit lacking in sheer grunt. But even without the power supply, it's got plenty, and with the power supply, it just sounds very strong and very solid.
Yes.
But then it should do because it's 6,500 quid.
With the power supply.
So,
yes.
And that's Rotel Michi territory.
It is. It is.
And those have got absolutely stonking amounts of...
so for those of you who watched the i9 review, do you remember what we said? It sounds really good with the power supply. So whatever you do, don't listen to the power supply because you'll want to buy it. And then it puts it into fairly expensive territory. And it's the same here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But it's a little bit less so because it's just got a little bit more to be by itself without the power supply.
Okay.
But still, you're a long way from the Hi-Fi Rose with like an electricity substation amount of power.
Sure.
And the Michi integrated, Rotels at $6,500, that kind of ballpark are like stonking, aren't they?
Sure. Yes.
I'm not sure if they sound better. Maybe even they don't even sound better. I'd love to do an AB.
Yeah.
Certainly, I would say the Michi sound slightly more mechanical and kind of sort of etched and detailed, whereas this has got a more kind of natural, organic sound.
And
possibly.
I prejudged this a little bit as well because I thought it would work with specific genres of music. So we're playing things like played some rock through it, and we played.
What rock did we play, Mike?
We played "Spirit of Radio" by Rush,
right?
Which sounded
That's
really good.
New one on me. I've never heard that before.
Thanks. We played. We played this on a previous riff as well with the Wharfdales, just to do a comparison.
Yeah.
We played Kraftwerk.
Yes. Technopop.
Yes, music non-stop, and it sounded great. Really dynamic, really fast.
Absolutely.
He's making a phone call.
No. Just carry on.
I'll carry on. No problem.
Yeah.
Really fast, really dynamic. Really enjoyed that. Thought it sounded great. And then we had a change of tack, and we played Rudy by Supertramp again, because there's a bit in there which is sort of, there's a technical bit in the middle with lots of detail and blink and you miss it, and actually it didn't.
And it's got the voice commentary from Paddington Station, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Mentioning Didcot, Reading, Bristol, Temple Meads, etc.
Right. Yes, exactly. And you can hear that. And
absolutely,
that was crystal clear, wasn't it? So the detail is there.
Yeah.
So you've got grunt, detail, dynamics, clarity. Really, really hard to fault. Great all-round amp.
And when we gave it a really modern track, and that was, I've just made a note of this. It was.
Oh yes, yeah.
A Net Ask Vic.
Pardon? Okay, I will.
Liberty by Annette Arksvik, viewers.
Yes.
Ignore him.
Some Norwegian.
Norwegian female singer that sounds a bit like Björk, I thought.
Yes.
But,
she's actually, if any of you can listen to that tune, if you could tell me who she actually does sound like, I need to know, because she sounds like someone and I can't put my finger on who it is. But anyway, there we are. Okay. That's an aside. Yeah. But nicely recorded and
really well recorded.
Sounds pretty funky. I just sort of stumbled upon recently, just purely by accident. But very good.
When you were Googling Norwegian singers, female vocalists.
Norwegian singers who sound like Björk.
Who do ballads that sound like Björk.
Yes. Yeah. I do things like that.
And they've got a kind of surname that could be like a good Viz pun.
Yes, quite. So really nice. Good amp. as we say, look, not short of competition. Can I just say something here? So I find that when we've gone through, and you just explained it really well, we've gone through a spate of reviewing some really nice amps, and we haven't found one which we haven't liked. We've enjoyed them all. And so if you're trying to give advice to somebody to, buy a specific one, it would be really difficult, wouldn't it? It would be really tough. And I think the only advice I could possibly give, and especially having come from a bit of a dealer background, is you've got to listen to them. Because I can't believe quite how different they all are, having listened to them all. And from sort of one extreme to the other, almost from like the Hi-Fi Rose to the Sugden, they all have their little places and little niches in between. And I think you've got to sort of find your one, haven't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you remember in the 80s when we were kind of really getting into hi-fi, there was a whole bunch of British integrateds, kind of 300 to 600 pounds, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was what's that one you've got again, Mike?
My Name Nate.
Okay.
Nate.
There was the MBA AP30.
Yeah.
There was the Mission Cyrus 2.
Yes.
And that's really this is kind of the sort of distant descendant of that, really.
Yes. Yeah. Similar form factor again.
Musical Fidelity A1.
Yes.
Incotech Claymore.
Yeah. Miss TMA3.
Exposure 10.
Yes.
There you go. All those, all British amps.
All in one pop.
Yeah, all in one pop. So all British amps, kind of 600 quid-ish, that sort of 500 quid-ish kind of thing. And it's almost like they've all kind of grown up and turned into what they are now. And
we would argue as to which is best.
Yeah, well, they're all now like, of course, nowadays, of course, the Exposure 3510 as well. So it's like just under $3,000, I think.
Yes.
So you've got 3510. You've got the Sugden A21. You've got the Ethos, etc.
Yeah.
So that kind of group that we were into in the 80s and always aspired to owning.
Yes.
They're now all around $3,000 to $4,000, aren't they?
Yes, exactly.
And this is it. King of the pile. It's one of the very most expensive of that kind of group. It's got the Swishes user interface around, and it's got a lot of power for an amp that's basically a half width design.
And just to chuck a curveball in here, when we were listening to those amps and owning those amps, which you just mentioned, we aspired to a pre-power.
Yes,
we felt that was like the next step up.
Yeah, we did,
and we I think we probably then went to pre-power, separate boxes.
Yep.
From there,
you went to a name pre-power, didn't you? I think.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
and then Exposure.
I went to 22 name 22 snaps 160 something like that. But I think with where do we go from here? Do we aspire to pre-powers for this? Do we want to go from here to the Exposure again, or the name again, or whatever it may be, or do we just settle with the integrators these days? It's a good question, isn't it?
That's a great question. And nowadays, the sort of bias is more towards adding a power supply.
Yes, isn't it interesting?
But the sort of pre-power market has kind of thinned out a bit, I think, hasn't it? Of course, Name still do them, and Exposure do them as well.
Yeah,
and others, and MVA and others. Yeah. But it's much more socially acceptable if you're a kind of serious hi-fi bore, to have an integrated now, because in the 70s, certainly having an integrated amp was something you had before you could afford a proper pre-power, wasn't it? I
know. It has changed.
Yeah.
There is an upgrade path with this,
yeah.
As you quite rightly say, with the power supply. So it's not like you're sort of stuck with it.
No.
And I kind of get it. I totally get it. But I like it. I think it's a great product. I'm going to ask you to do a riffometer on it.
Okay. I'm going to give it. So I'm going to give it a 9.
Are you?
It could even be 9.5. It's just getting a teensy bit expensive. We're kind of moving out of the 2.5 to 3.5 grand, and especially with the power supply, it's not an inconsiderable sum of money, but even as it is, it's great. And I think the exact type of buyer who would buy this basically wants a very high performance, all-in-one unit that takes up a small amount of space and kind of looks good in his or her fancy house or whatever, and doesn't take over the house. Unlike us, who basically have hi-fi storage facilities that also allow you to live in.
Yes, exactly. That's so true. Your museum.
Yes.
Your hi-fi museum.
Yeah, that's my house, Mike. It's not.
I haven't heard it with the power supply.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 9 as well, but I can't help but think if I'd heard it with the power supply, I'd probably give it an 8 because it would make me want to buy the power supply, and that's kind of what happened with the i9.
Yeah.
And that's sort of that. I felt that was almost like a negative for me because there was something which I wanted but I couldn't have afforded it. But I think it's lovely. I think it's a really nice amp. I'm really impressed with all of it. I think they're absolutely going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think their products are exciting and good fun and great to listen to, and this is going to last a lifetime as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think that going to $4,000, it had to be bang on.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it is.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really nice. So great stuff. So Cyrus, guys, well done again. Fantastic product. Thank you for letting us try it out. We've thoroughly enjoyed it, and we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. And we'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.